end? Abhishek, Chandan.
Yes, sir. Good evening,
Yes,
sir.
sir. We are at the page.
Okay. Today we are going to start with our new topic, which is based out of Microsoft Dataverse. Now, if we go with the agenda, so for today is our day 3. So with day 3, we are going to start with Microsoft Dataverse and understand how a data model can be created. And what exactly we mean by creating a data model. Are you ready for it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get started. Before I begin, what is Microsoft Dataverse?
Microsoft Dataverse is a
It is the database where
Okay, go one by one, go one by one, no, not a problem. Abhishek, what is Dataverse and how is data being stored in Dataverse?
sir, it's a database where you can store data in the form of tables or charts.
All right. Chandan, when you created Power Platform account, did you had database in your account?
database account.
When you created the Power Apps account, the trial account that we created, did you had that Dataverse option?
Yes.
Did you had database in your
Yes,
Power
yes.
Platform account?
Below that,
Okay, no worries. We'll come to understand. Is there a previous name for Microsoft Dataverse? What was it called previously? So that question would go for Rifakat.
it's previous name.
Not aware, I know, because we have not covered many of the things yet. So let's go ahead. Not a problem.
Sir,
I just
you are asking for the environment, means default environment.
No, Microsoft Dataverse. Now you understand the word Microsoft Dataverse, but it was previously known as CDS. So anywhere you hear the term CDS, right, which is Common Data Service. Okay, it was replaced in 2020 to be called as Dataverse by Microsoft. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now let's go ahead and let's have a review of what Microsoft Dataverse is. This would be an easy lesson for you to understand and understand how does this was initiated. Now, when you created, the Power Platform, we went to Dataverse and we clicked on tables. And within these tables, we found out that these are the standard tables that are available at our end, right?
Yes, sir.
We all have this table. We all have this table, which means these are common tables that are available to everyone who create apps. That's why they are also common data model. So common data model is a data model initiative by Microsoft and existing partners where every environment has standard tables. If you see these tables like account, address, appointment, these are all the same tables that are available at your end too, because every instance of Microsoft Dataverse will have a common data model. So a difference between Dataverse and common data model is that common data model are set of standard tables, whereas Dataverse in whole can consist of custom tables and standard tables. So let's get started. What is Dataverse
Sir,
yeah? Go ahead with your
means
question.
common. Yeah, I'm just asking that common data model is means storing means what in the common data model means what is common data model? I'm just asking.
All right. So let's understand in this in terms of diagrams. So the first thing to understand is Dataverse is your you know, table, right? And now once you have those tables, so let's just go here. Let's take this up. Okay. You understand that data verse is your table. So this will become your data verse completely, right? And this will be your database. Let's call this as data verse. Within data verse, you have several other tables that exist. So maybe you would, so few of them are known as system generated tables. System tables. Okay. This
Yes.
which consists of common tables across industries, which means account table can be used by any industries, appointment table is used by any industries, right? And and you do have other tables such as feedback, user, sales. So you would see that there are common tables that exist for you. This particular section where they are system generated tables is known as common data model, which is present in every instance of Dataverse. So common data model will exist in every instance of Dataverse. Other than common data model, you would also have custom tables. What are these custom tables? Custom tables are the one that are created by users. Okay. Technically, they are same. It's just that common data model is available to you have this for every instance of Dataverse. That's why they are known as common data model. But whereas custom tables are user created tables.
So
So
by
you see,
default, the custom data models are there,
yes, by default they are there.
and we don't want to create a one second.
Yes, if you will see, you won't have knowledge assessment table. Knowledge assessment table is a custom table that I created. You won't have at your end. You won't have job one, but you will have account. So everyone will have common data model. That's what common data model and Dataverse is all about. I hope that's clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And it is
All right.
present inside Dataverse.
Yes, it is present inside Dataverse. That's right. Okay. Now, Dataverse is database storing a set of standard and custom table structure known as called tables, right? And common data model is it is set of open source standardized extensible data tables and relationships. It is part of an open data initiative. Open data initiative is by Microsoft and their partner so that everyone can enjoy same tables and can take leverage of these tables. So you can create custom tables or you can utilize some existing tables in your processes. Perfect. Now, let's understand more about this. It's not only about tables and all. So when I say Dataverse, it is more than tables, more than all.
Sir,
Now to Mhm.
sir, can I link means the custom table to that common data model table? Can I link two tables?
You can create relationship between any tables within Dataverse. So whether it is part of common data model, whether it is custom table, you can link them too.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now let's see an example of how data is being stored. Now let us for an example, I am going ahead with creating account management. Okay. So for account management, I would surely need certain kinds of tables, columns that should be there. Now, the way Excel store information is that it will have account number as the first column, right? Then you would also have account name, right? You will also store address, pin code, right? Credit rating. So what are these? What is this called? All of these. These are known as columns, right? So this becomes sets of your columns. And you will start storing information here. For an example, Vibor, no, account number 1, name would be Vibhor, address would be Nagpur, some pin code, and credit rating somewhere 800, right? Similarly, you will go with account number, then the second would be Chandan, right? Their places is Bangalore, Bengaluru, number pin code, and that would be 900. So you see that you are storing information in such format. What is this format called? This is a table format. Okay, and what are these called? Where you are storing this information, this would be rows, right? This is how information is being stored normally, whether it is SQL Server, whether it is Excel, or whether it is Microsoft Dataverse. This is how information is being stored. So in a similar pattern, Dataverse will also store information in tables. All right. So what are tables? Tables are the way to store information, and you will find these tables that are right now available in your this particular model. Go ahead with account table. Take a look at account table. When you click on account table, it will open up this particular page, right? In this particular page, you have several options here. The first one is the table properties, right? The second one is the schema, which is second tile. The third one is data experience. And the fourth one is customization. Out of this, we will go ahead and click on columns. So you can also do this at your end. When you click on columns, you would see all of these columns that are available. I told you there would be address 1, address 2, account name, process stage, traverse path, right? Similarly, there are a lot of columns that are available. You can also include your own custom columns right over here. Now, one thing to understand about column is that account number, what should be the data type of account number?
Number. I mean integer text.
Integer.
Integer, right? Account name, text, right? Address again would be text, pin code would be integer, or maybe number you could call them. Credit rating would be again number, but this number would be between 0 to 900, right? So you see that you have to store specific number, specific type of data into your columns. And that is something that you start at the Dataverse level as well. So what are columns? Columns store discrete piece of information within a record in a table. And every column has a type which defines the way you store the data. Maybe you can also have the store. So you can have the date, the created date, and you can store that information for 21/11, maybe 2022, right? So that is how you can also store information. Here the data types will become date. Okay, so that pretty much makes it, create a data, create a table, create a column. What is data model? Data model is all about creating tables and creating columns. Now let us also understand in very depth. When I go on creating or tables, I click on tables for sure, right? I click on new table. As I start creating new table, I have a display name, plural name. Okay. Let's just say you are creating a table called as invoices. Okay. The plural name would automatically come up. And if you go to advanced option, you would see the schema name. Every table will have a schema name. So when you start learning about tables, you must understand that there are different types of tables as well as you can create. By different types of table, we mean that, let's understand this in this perspective. So this becomes your table. All right. And within tables, All right. So that becomes your table. And within table, what are the things that you have learned first time? Columns, right? Any table that you create, all right. So let's just say you are defining tables. Tables are of different types. One of the type is a standard table, and another type is the activity table. Okay, and you also have a third type, which is known as virtual table. So there are three types of tables when you go ahead and create them. Standard, okay, activity table, and virtual table. Now, when I'm creating this table right over here, I do have a type, which one I have to choose. If I select the standard table, these are normal tables that are created. Okay, so these are some of the normal tables. They doesn't have any time dimension. Uh, let's just say account details, uh, feedback information, user information. These are some of the examples of standard tables, which are only storing account information. It it doesn't have time dimension. What I mean by time? Now you see here, this is an account table, right? But I do have here an appointment table. You see here, right? If I go to appointment table and I see the columns, appointment table has certain types of columns which are dedicated to duration, which are dedicated to data types of date and time. So think about a situation where you have to capture data. What are the situation where you would capture data? Maybe while you're tracking emails, or maybe while you're counting on something such as duration, start time, end time. So those types of tables which has time dimension, time dimensions such as start time, end time, and where you have to capture duration, that becomes activity table. One of the examples of activity table would be would be, uh-huh, appointment table, maybe email table, right? So these are some of the activity tables that you have. So standard tables, activity table, and then you also have something known as virtual table, which I will let you know in our upcoming sessions. But for now, do understand that
Sir,
there are
how
two types
how
of tables.
email
Sir, can you show any example of activity table?
For sure, we do have a lot of activity tables that are here. The one of them is appointment. All right. You also have email right over here. So if you go to email, this is an activity type of table, which is capturing information such as, actual end, actual start, uh, record created on SLA. So they do have SLA timer. There is a timer that is attached to this table, a column which is going to capture all the times. Now, how could you?
Sir, sir, these columns are getting data automated way by from the Power Apps.
I mean, it depends on the way you configure it, but yes, for sure they're getting. So over here in your table list, you could see there are standard tables and activity tables. Any activity table will have a time dimension.
sir,
Mhm.
means how email table is activity comes under activity table email because
Because because it
as,
has a column. It has a time column. That is why.
for that example of appointment we have means create an appointment for the time duration from 3 to 5 or 5 to 7 for the duration. But email, you can suppose email someone, then it will be stored in their inbox permanently.
It's not an inbox email. Your email will come, your email information will come in the dataverse table. And you see that an email can also have an SLA. SLA as if how much time did you take to reply to it, right? So receive time, reply time, and maybe you can schedule email to send after an hour. So this is schedule duration. Send later. That is also a date, right? So don't think in terms of Outlook right now. Think in terms of tables, not in Outlook. Outlook also stores information in terms of tables, but here with Dataverse, let's say this is an email table which you are using in your application. Okay, an email comes in and you have built a system which is storing email information in this table. So it will capture all time related information about that table, such as when was the email received, how much duration has been passed, whether you have replied to that email on the given SLA. What is SLA? Service level agreement, right? So did you reply that on an hour? So you see that all are these time sort of things that are being related with the email table. That's why email has been categorized as a activity table.
The
Okay, sir.
standards tables are static, and these tables are dynamic. In that way, we can say authoritative.
For an understanding, you could say that an account table can have date and time too, but you know the definition of standard and static doesn't work here. Standard and dynamic, sorry, dynamic and static, right? For a understanding, you could say, but the only difference between standard table and activity table is that activity table will always have a time dimension, whereas account table, address table, or standard tables will not have a time dimension. Now this time dimension can be, you know, start time, end time, duration, service level agreement, anything that defines time.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Like recurring task is also an activity table. So overall, when you start creating a table, you must understand these aspects, that there are different types of tables that are created. We will see virtual table as well as in future when we completely understand the model. But for now, let us understand standard and activity only.
And
When you,
sir,
yeah,
in that table, is there any limit for the columns, like in the
there's
database?
no limit. Now let's say I'm creating an invoice table, right? Over here, you see that the plural name comes up, but
Can change the plural names.
yes, you can change that plural name, not a problem. But invoices is something that is a schema name. Now schema name will always have an initial, you know, like here CR27, which is specific to environment, which is specific to this particular environment. Once you create this table, schema name cannot be changed. So a table will always use schema name. So you must understand these aspects in very, you know, you should have a clear understanding of it. So something there is known as schema name, which is based out of environment. So maybe it will be in terms of CRXXX and table name. This schema name cannot be changed. You must be, you know, once you create a table, a schema name won't be able to change itself. However,
Then
name you can,
it is created automatically.
yeah, it is created automatically based on the name you have given. You can also edit it right over here, but once you save it, you won't be able to change it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And then comes the record ownership. So what is a record? Now over here, this become record number 1. This become record number 2. Right? So
Yes, sir.
who would be the owner of this record? So when you are creating tables, you also define who would be the owner, whether it would be a particular user, particular team, or a complete organization. Which means that record belongs to organization, complete company, all right? Or whether it only belongs to a user or a team. Why it is important is because then it will let you also create security for those records. When you select user or team, you can set up a security by which only user or a team can see that record. If you select organization, anyone who has organization level access will be able to see that record. So in terms of table ownership, it is very important that you go ahead and establish record ownership. It will be in terms of user or teams, or it would be complete organization record.
Yes, suppose one table is created by the record ownership of user or teams, then after that it will be changed to organization.
Once you create table, you can always change the ownership. Ownership can always be changed.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Every table will also have a primary column. This will always be a data type text.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I'm just asking that suppose the ownership is for the organization, then the user or the team will access that or not?
They see it is so it depends upon, like Abhishek has user and team access. I have organization level access. So Abhishek will only be able to see user level records. If and I have organization level records, so I will only able to see organization level record. If I give Abhishek user level access and Abhishek creates user level records, and Vibhor also get user level access, then only Vibhor will be able to see user level records. Okay. So, this concept is right now will confuse you because you're not aware about right now with the security concept, how security is implemented. But you must understand that the records are created at various different level. One of them is user, one of them is organization. To see user level records, I need to have user level access. To see organization level records, I need to have organization level access.
Okay, sir.
Okay. If I don't have access, I cannot see any of the records.
Okay, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. This is great. Now, every column has a data type, you know that, but we were into tables. So when you start creating tables, there will always be a primary column. A primary column, when you define the table, you also would need to define a primary column. Primary column is the first column, and this will always be text. Okay. So you should always be aware about what you are defining in primary column, and it is always going to be a text column. Okay, let's create this table, properties, save. Once you create that table, this would be a custom table that you have created. Okay, perfect. Now, once the table is created, and if I go back here, it is saving my data. Along with the primary column, some system generated columns will also be there. These system generated columns are there to catch vital information about your table, such as when it was created or when the record was created in this table, and many other things such as names and all, individual ID for every record. So along with this primary name column, right, you see here, I do have these columns that are there: created by, on, import sequence, invoices, modify, owning business unit, owning team, owning users, record created on, status region. So I have primary name column, which is single line of text, but along with them, there are system columns as well, which can be very useful to me, such as owner, owner ID, right? Such as invoice ID. What is invoice ID? A unique identifier, which means for any record I create in this table, I can call that record using an unique identifier. These are what? What are these here?
This is the column.
These are columns. So similar to a custom column, a custom table, I can also create a custom column. While creating a new column, I need to define what type of column it is. So now I have created a table for invoice. So the first thing that I would need to understand is it should generate an invoice number, right?
Yes, sir.
That becomes my first column. Here, the data types, here are all the data types that can be used: text, number, date and time, lookup,
Lookup
choices.
is what, sir?
Lookup means you want to look up on a record which is on another table.
It's,
So,
It's the
like
following
relation.
that column.
it's the relationship yeah, it's the relationship column. We will come to that too. So you will see all of these options such as text, number. Now this is invoice number, right? Invoice number would always be different. So what I will do is I will create a auto number column. Perfect. Within this auto number column, I do have whether I can make it business recommended, where if I am using this column in my application, it will come up with a prompt. It is recommended by business. It is required, which will make it mandatory, business required, and optional, whether user can, go ahead and cannot fill that up as well. Easy to understand.
Sir, can you repeat again? And understand the required part.
The data type is auto number. What is auto number? Which means you can see a preview here. As record will go on adding, the column will give itself the value, right? 101001
Yes, sir.
1002. Now required, whether it is business recommended, whether it is business required or optional. Recommended, it will only give you a prompt that it is recommended to, fill up this. It is not mandatory, but it is recommended. Business required, it makes it mandatory. So if you use this column, user will have to fill up this column.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Then comes the auto number part. Whether you want a string prefix number, date prefix number, or a custom one. I want a date prefix number. So my invoice number would become like this.
Okay.
Fair enough to understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Further,
And
every
and sir, and sir, we can see the value, any value, sir.
yeah, you can see any value starting from 1, starting from 5. So we can speed those values as well, right? So you can click on info. The seed value is the starting value that is used for sequential number.
Okay, sir.
Schema name. All right. Same as that of a table, column will also have a schema name. Schema name is a unique name for those columns and for those tables. I'll save this up. And this becomes my second column, or sorry, yeah, second column in my table. The first column is the primary column name, and then I do have a second column which is invoice number.
And sir, after creating one table, we can add columns or delete columns.
Yes, we can add columns, we can delete columns, we can modify columns.
Okay, sir. We can modify the data type, sir, for that column.
Now let's just see. I created an invoice number. Okay. Can I change the data type? I can only change it to plain text. I cannot change it to any other data types. Okay, so even data types cannot be changed to some extent. Can I change the schema name? No, I cannot change the schema name because based out of it, you have logical name. Logical name and schema name are same thing. Logical name is used by application to call these column or call these tables.
Okay, sir.
Sir, one thing more. Uh, in primary name column, we are distinguish that column, but when invoice number, that is our column, and system generated column, there is a confusion. So how to differentiate them?
How to differentiate between a system generated column and a
And
custom
our
column?
custom
Yeah,
column.
yeah, by the schema name. Now, system generated column does not have an environment initial. Now, right over here, you see there is an environment initial.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Schema name is the one which will let you know which are the, you know, custom created column.
Okay, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that defines your tables and that defines your column. Think about any solution. Okay, think about any solution. You have to start with keeping information. Now, let's just say you are working in on a sales store, right? Like a shop and all. So in a shop, what are the things that you would like to keep together? I mean, what are the things that you wanted to make or you wanted to create data for? This is also this part of the exercise is also known as data modeling. So I want you to brainstorm on those things, such as you are on a sales store. Okay, so you are selling sales. You are on a sales store called as Sharma Enterprise. All right, and you are selling some products, such as let's just say you are selling cosmetic products. Okay, so what are the things that you need to maintain? You are given a chance to digitize the billing process. Right now, they are giving paper bills, they are creating invoices, they are writing they are writing customer name, they are writing invoice number, they are writing that these are the products, product number one, product number two, product number three, and they are giving the total bill to the customer. So, what according to you are the information that Sharma Enterprise as a sales store should store?
Sir, that product name and how many quantities are there in the store, and after selling that, how many quantities are left, and whom to means we can sell that product.
So I can say that you want customer information,
Yeah,
right?
customer information.
And then you also want product information,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then
right?
product quantity before
So
selling.
yes, and you will also want invoice information to be stored
Yes, sir.
within this invoice. What are the line items, which basically means what are the products that are being stored. So you would need these four details to store in order to have or digitize your product, right?
And the date, sir.
These are the
Which
columns.
date, how many products are means sold. So,
Now, when I say this, I will use as a column. I don't think that would be a good structure. Why? Because customer will have customer name, customer address, customer number. Product will have product ID, product name, maybe product cost price, product selling price, right? Similarly, invoice will have invoice number, invoice ID, number of products that are involved on those invoices, which are basically the line items. So my question is, this is keeping them all in one table is not a good idea, right? We should
but
have
sir, I'm not means telling that we have to store in one table. Means we have created one product table where we can product ID, product name, product price, means cost price, then selling price, and the discount price we can add in the product table, and then invoice is a table, line items is a table, customer is a table. We have 4 tables.
Okay, perfect. So let's do that. Let's, I think you will create 4 tables, right? Customer table. You will also create a product table. All right. You will also store a table where you would have line items. Line items are basically products that are being stored, sold, right? Now, and you're also creating an invoice table to store invoice. Okay. Moreover, let me know what are the things that you need in customer table. You need customer name as a column,
Yes, sir.
right? You would also need their address and you will also need their mobile number. Let's just say we are the store that store this information. Similarly, in product table, you will have product
Product
name,
ID,
Product
product
ID.
ID,
so ID, right? And maybe the price,
Product cost.
MRP of the
yes,
product. Perfect.
yes,
Now, product table and invoice table. Now let us structure an invoice first. Okay. Let's just say what is the invoice that you would give. So you are creating an invoice. In your invoice, you would have certain data, right? So this becomes your invoice for an example. You're generating an invoice. This is a digital invoice that you might create. Within this invoice, what are the information that you might need? So the first is, you will give a heading name, which is Sudarshan Enterprise, right? Sharma Enterprise. And you would also say that uh, within this Sharma Enterprise, this is the invoice number,
number,
right?
GST number,
You will provide the date. You will provide the GST ID number, right? Along with them in your invoices, you will also have customer name, right? Maybe you will add their address and mobile number.
yes, sir. Then the product
Okay.
ID,
And then all of the product that belong to this invoice. So product one, its name, its ID, its cost. Similarly, product two, its name, its ID, and its cost, right?
and
And at
the
last,
tax.
of course, the tax as well, the total tax that is being applied. And at last, you will also have the total
Some
bill of that invoice,
total.
right? So this is how your invoice would look like, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Probably. But here in invoice table, of course, you will go ahead, create certain columns, such as invoice
Number.
ID or invoice number or invoice ID. Okay, so invoice number. Now you also want customer name, right? You also want mobile and this. This is stored in this customer table. So there is a way to utilize these resources, customer name, address, and mobile number, and use it in our invoice table here,
So
right? This way is known as creating relationships.
primary column.
Relationships, yeah, relationships are the way tables are connected to each other. You can have a parent-child relationships with defining it to be many-to-many or one-to-many relationships. So one-to-many, many-to-many are different types of themes of relationships. Are you aware about relationships before?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not from your college time. Relationships from tables.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes,
In
sir.
the SQL that we
SQL.
have connected
SQL, yeah,
to
for
tables.
sure. SQL Server also follow the same sort of relationships. So I would create a relationship between customer table and invoice table, which will allow me to use these items, customer name, address, mobile number. Now, how would this relationship would be? Whether all of the invoices would be related to one customer, or few of the invoices would be related to one customer, all of the customer would related to, or many customer would relate to one invoice. How do you think would be the relationship between customer table and invoice table?
Many to many.
Here, customer table is the primary table, and invoice is the foreign where you can use foreign keys to.
I can say
Yes,
one customer can be related to many invoices.
yeah, yes, sir. One
What do you
customer can.
think?
Yes, sir. Suppose one customer is coming 2-3 times in a week to buy
So,
something, then
yeah, these types of relationships are known as one-to-many relationships, where one record of one table can be related with various records of another table. It is also denoted as 1:n relationships. Easy to understand? Any
yes,
confusion?
But in customer table, there are so many customers. There are
There are
many
so many, but when you think of relationships, think of one record. Okay, think of one
yes.
record only. Consider that record. Vibhor Sharma has bought today with invoice number 35, tomorrow with invoice number 36, another day with 45. So how you can relate this record to each other? If you come out with the relationship, many records of invoices can be related to one customer.
yes, yes.
Yes, sir. One to many relations.
One-to-many relationships. Yes, that's how it is. Now, product table. Now, product table will also be used in invoice. Why? Because you have to give product ID, product name, but you would do this in terms of line items. So what I mean is you want to use product, right? But you wanted to have an invoice number generated for each line item as well. So every product that is being sold will create a record in line item, and this line item will also be linked to one invoice, right? If you see this relationship, you can say that one product can have multiple line items, whereas one line item will always belong to one invoice.
One invoice.
Similarly, if you have to use product in your invoices table, right? Each product, so one product can be part of multiple invoices, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Many customer can buy, the one product one. Other customers can buy other products too. So that is how the relationship would exist. And relationships are there to, to give you one to many, many to many. These relationships are created over here in the table itself. So if I go back to your table, okay, in the
Can
schema
you
column, I mhm.
can you give an example of many to many? It's in line, it's one to many, but for many to many, how it is that? How? What is the example for many to many relationship?
So for many to many relationships, you can consider of uh, there are certain students in a college. Each student can go to certain class, okay, and they can acquire certain skills, right? Now, one student can acquire many skill, one student can acquire many classes, right? This becomes one to many kind of relationships. But there can be cases where many students are acquired only for one skill. This is many to one relationships, right?
Yes, sir.
You understand one to many, many to one. Now,
Yes, yes.
consider a situation where many students can also go ahead and acquire many of the classes. So
Yes, sir.
In this example, you can see that one to many to one, many to many relationships also exist. In the course throughout, we will go and see how you can go ahead. In practicality, you would see one to many relationships and many to many relationships. Those are only the two types of relationships that can come up. So while you start building relationships, right? You create a relationships here. You do have many to one relationships, one to many relationships, and many to many relationships. Many to one and one to many are just the way of looking. If you look it from other end, it is nothing but one to many and many to one. For an example, if I think in terms of invoices related to customer, it is many to one.
Yes, sir.
Right? Any question? I
Sir,
think
these
this,
four databases that you have shown, how can you establish the relationship between these four? Means there is one common column is there for any document.
yeah, there should be a proper column to create relationship. That is something that you need to understand. So we will go ahead and see how relationships are also created. Now, if I create a relationship between any of this table, one to many, I'm creating invoices to, let's just say, a user table. Or an account table, right? When I create this thing, a lookup column is always displayed. There would be a lookup column that would be created. And for creating relationships, I will utilize IDs. So every column you see has an ID. So let's just go here into invoices. Let's just go here into columns, right? How are this being created? So I do have an invoice ID right over here, right? And I go to relationships here. There are some existing relationships. What are these existing relationships? Uh, Such as with created by. There is a relationship between created by tables, many to one. This relationship is between invoice table and the user table. And this is many to one relationships, which means many of the records in invoices can be created by single user, right? And it itself, the relationship itself is creating a column. This is the column that you have, which is created by, and the related table is user, which means when you create one to many relationships, if I'm creating an account table, right, and I'm defining these relationships as invoices in general option, in advanced option, remove link, and click on done. I also have created a lookup column. I also have created a reference column to be used in my table. Okay. So right over here, you could see invoice is related to account table via one to many relationship. Now let us go back to columns as well. Okay. Now let's see here. Invoices. And within this table, there is a relationship. So in a similar way, SQL Server creates a relationship between unique IDs. Invoices is also a sort of column which is being created. This is lookup column display name, which is an invoice column. I hope you are able to understand it. Still confusion?
Yes, sir.
say that again.
Generated by us or system is generated according to the data.
Abhishek, I'm really sorry, but I can't understand.
Yes, sir. It's telling that the relations many to many or one to many, that tables in that columns which are previously there is created by the system, or we have to create it, that relation.
No, no, no. We did this one right over here. Which one? This one? These relationships?
Yes, sir.
These are created by system with another table, user table. So these are system generated relationships. And this is the one. So let me uncheck this option here. This right over here is the relationship that I created.
Okay, sir.
Invoice. How would I use this? So in my invoice table, I would have an account column. Using that account column, I can relate an account to my invoice record.
Okay, sir.
Okay, the forms will give you better idea. Now I'm getting too much into forms. Okay, this is but just to clear up your confusion. Now forms are way to enter data into your table. Okay, we will go and learn about forms as well. But while you are using this form, this is an invoice creation form, right? You will give the invoice name, and you will also say you will give invoice number, right?
How to give that number means we
Okay.
have to insert, or by invoice number is automatically generated, but the name how to input.
Oh, you will input it. I mean, the name would be inputted by a user when you will use this form.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now you would also relate it to just a moment. Okay. Created column, created, modified on, owning business unit, status region. So a lookup column can also be used. So for an example, you want to, relate this record to some owner or some user or some account. So you can use a lookup column right over here and add it to the form. This is how it will be used. I'll also give you one more example. Uh, Solution, knowledge base, Vibhor Sharma. Okay, knowledge assessment. This is this is one of the solution that we created for knowledge assessment tables. Okay, I'm gonna give you. We have several tables such as feedback, knowledge assessment. Okay, knowledge question, and each of these are related to each other. And we created an application out of it, a model driven application. Right now here I have a knowledge admin. I'll play that application to give you an idea about this. Now you do have knowledge assessment. Okay, while you're creating knowledge assessment, you can relate these knowledge assessment to a question, which is part of the knowledge question table. Let's just say I'm creating a knowledge test one. Okay, I'm also giving a start date to it. Okay, and saving it. Now in this knowledge, I wanted to add questions, and those questions would be related with this particular knowledge. So I do have a question tab where I can add new questions. Now these new questions are added to the knowledge question table. So I'm going back. I do have knowledge assessment table, right? And I do have columns. and I do have relationships. And I'm going to go to relationships here. So you see this, CR knowledge assessment. This is related to the assessment process. One of the relationship is knowledge assessment. This is related to knowledge question, which is one to many. So now in my table, I can use knowledge assessment table and I can configure questions which are related with this particular knowledge. Which relationship was this? One to many. Many questions. Okay, like I say question 1 is this and save it. Okay. I also say that I will have another question here, which is question number 2, save and close. So you could see that under knowledge assessment table, under this particular record, the first record that I have created, which is test, right? I have various questions related to this knowledge test. Okay, this is the knowledge test that I did create, 727, this one. And within this question, there are 2 questions. These questions are from where? Where are these stored? These are stored in knowledge question table, but they can be related to knowledge assessment. So they are related to knowledge assessment. I hope this example is able to get you understand what is relationships and how do we use them.
And knowledge question is linked to knowledge assessment.
Yes, so many questions can be related to many assessment, right?
Okay.
So what is the relationship between knowledge assessment and question?
And in this, you have created the relation between knowledge question and knowledge assessment. Means
Knowledge assessment and knowledge question. Yes, that's right. Okay, so learn more about relationships, try to find out about them, how they are related. I know you are using them in SQL servers, but in Dataverse too, you will use them. You will also have parent-child relationship between them. An invoice parent table can have many line items, which will be considered as child rows. A contact can attend multiple events. An event can have many contacts.
line items means
Sorry?
that line items. Many line items means many childs means one parent table has multiple
A parent invoice number 35 can have
Hello. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Your voice is
Hello?
not audible.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So the starting table is the parent table and the linking table is the child table. Now invoice 1 will be related to many products, many line items. That's why it is called as the child rows.
Okay, sir.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, every day 1 hour we are completing small topics every day, and which is also giving you time to explore this on your own time. So do explore these options of relationship. What are these? Do read about them and also come up with many questions tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so we are done with our time. I will see you tomorrow, same time, and do come up with questions and let me know.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Chandan, Abhishek, and Rifakat, I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Tomorrow
Okay,
also
sir.
we have. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Tomorrow, sir, 5:30.
5:30, yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, sir.
Good night.
Good night.
Good evening. Bye.